we're going to jump on a story called The Hated Spoon. Now, there's a couple ways this can go. It's kind of an unusual title, but it can go kind of fairy tale style. We can go in a horror story. I'm not exactly positive which direction we're going to go, but let's just dive in and see what we can make of this. Ando had a lot of problems. He was a spoon, but he was used to that. His problem was that he was the least liked spoon. Really, he was hated. The boy had started doing the dishes in the house, so all the spoons were thrown into the drawer in a huge pile. Get off me. Sunday said. She bumped Ando aside. He was about to slide under the curved plastic side of... Okay, let's say she bumped Ando aside with a loud clink. I'll let him know that he's metal. Alright. He was about to slide under the curved plastic side, let's say edge of the silverware tray. Hey Zach, thank you for being here. Good evening to you too. This is going to be a weird one. Let's see what we do with it. He was about to slide under the curved plastic edge of the silverware tray. Sugar caught him at the last second and pulled him back in with the clutter of spoons. You could have been under there for weeks, she said. Ando smiled. Okay, Ando smiled. It's better than being under the sink. That's where the man threw me when he was doing the dishes. It was hard to read expressions inside the closed drawer, but he saw concern and discomfort on her face. Okay, let's keep that the same paragraph. He tried his best to comfort her. it's not so bad under there, really. That was a lie. The chemicals burned. There were roaches and mice who scurried about in the dark under there. Here he was just among friends. Whitling tried to adjust himself, but only ended up falling in with the forks. They muttered among themselves about their own problems. Whitling shouted, "I don't like it any more than you." Sterling tried to reach over. "Can you grab on, man?" Whitling laughed. "With what, dude? With what?" Cromwell took a deep breath and said, "One of the adults will be along shortly to straighten all this out." Alright. Ando swallowed and whispered, "I hope not." Sugar patted the bowl of his head and said, "It'll be okay." Sunday turned from the action and asked Ando, "Why do they hate you so much?" "They don't hate him." Sugar piped up. "Well," Ando finished for her, "the man really hates me. The boy and the woman don't care so much either way, but he hates me for sure." "Why?" Sunday asked. don't match the set. There is no set. Sunday motioned toward all the other scattered spoons. We're all mismatched. I was in the woman's stuff from college. Cromwell came from the man's parents' house. The boy stole sterling from the neighbors, and no one noticed. As she went on, Ando took inventory of himself. He was roughly shaped like any other spoon in the world, but he had some key problems. His bowl was sort of flattened compared to the others, so he spilled more. His tail was sort of sharp. He couldn't remember if he was made that way or if it happened over time from all the episodes of being used as a crowbar or for popping out batteries from remotes. Worst of all, he thinned out in the middle. Alright, let me make that a new paragraph about this poor spoon's plight. Okay. Worst of all, he thinned out in the middle. There was no real place to grip comfortably. The thin body wasn't long enough to avoid grabbing the sharp tail. Any way you held Ando was awkward. Let me think. The boy and woman did not actively hate him like the man, but they avoided using him. Let it go, Sugar said. Ando blinked. Ando blinked and said, "Yeah, I don't know. I'm just not his taste." Alright. The drawer opened and all the loose silver scattered around in the light. Alright. The woman stared down at the mess and sighed. She sorted everything into place, took a small fork, and closed the drawer. Alright. Ando ended up on top of the stack. Whew. That's better, Whitling said. You made it to the top, Sunday called from below. You'll get used for sure now, Ando. Ando shivered. He'd rather be forgotten. Let me just have him say it. Shivered and said, "I'd rather be forgotten at the bottom, so I could stay in the drawer longer." The way they do dishes around here, Sterling said, we all get used for any washing. It'll be okay, Sugar said from below. All right. The drawer opened and it I can't believe you're getting me invested in utensils. Yeah. I can't believe I'm writing this. This title has been on my board for a while, but I was looking for something to write today. We'll see how it goes. The drawer opened, and it was the man. He had a pint of ice cream. He turned up his lip as he lifted Ando from his thin middle. He bounced the hated spoon on the counter and Ando slid into the base of the air fryer. I think that's 2 words. The man lifted Sugar, okay, that's her name, lifted Sugar out and carried her away. She cast a smile at Ando before she was gone. She's good for ice cream, he said to himself. Alright. Being in the light on the counter was better than under the sink. He didn't know what it meant, though. Eventually, the light went out, and he figured this was where he'd spend the night. Okay. The light flipped back on, and Ando braced himself. It was the woman. He breathed a sigh of relief. Okay, she lifted him and stared at him for a moment, say a long moment. The spoon held his breath. Was she growing weary of him too? He had trouble reading people expressions. Their faces were often a mystery. Okay. She opened the tray of the air fryer and started scraping out the gunk with Ando's flat head. He coughed and spit out the burnt flavors. She flipped him over and used his sharp tail to scrape even more. When he thought he couldn't take it anymore, she tossed him into the... Hey, Otterly, thanks for being here, man. She tossed. I'm writing a story about spoons. When he thought he couldn't take it anymore, she tossed him into the sink. Alone. The light went out. Before Ando could catch his breath, he heard the clicking noise. Roaches climbed up out of the wet depths of the garbage disposal. These were big and dark. Their antennae waved about. The roaches descended upon Ando and fed on the fried remains that coated him. He tried to, let me make that a new paragraph. He tried to imagine himself back in the silverware drawer, but couldn't stop feeling their spiny legs all over him. He was in the sink a long time. Dirty dishes piled on top of him. Sauces and bits of food coated the sink all around him for days. The roaches fed well every night. In time, the dishes blocked out the light, turning night and day into continual darkness. Standing water rose out of the clogged drain and submerged Ando. It tasted of rot and stagnant waste. He knew there was other silverware in here with him. Maybe sugar was here too, but he could not hear or cry out under the tepid swill in the sink. One day he burst from the filth into the light, gasping for air, but still tasting that nasty water. The man was in the midst of raising his voice, seen roaches, and that's part of the problem right there. It is your responsibility to Ando lost the rest as the boy put him under a jet of water. He wasn't completely clean afterward, but it was better as he dropped into the silverware holder of the open dishwasher. Holder of the open dishwasher. The loading and shouting continued. Then, okay, let's make this a new paragraph. All right. Then the boy pulled the spoon again and used him to scrape out a burned pan. Ando coughed and gagged. Finally, he dropped back into the holder, upside down this time, and filthy once more. The cycle was heaven, and he slept well in the drying. He slept well in the drying heat. The next morning, he waited for the unload and his return to the drawer. The boy pulled Ando, but then returned to the sink. He used the hated spoon to clear out the clog in the drain. Ando recognized the foul taste down there. He scraped painfully against the blades of the garbage disposal. Alright. The roaches moved off to the side and waited for the action to end. Ando swore they looked at him like they recognized him. Okay. Back into the dishwasher alone and filthy in the darkness. It was... Hey Angela, thanks for being here. I'm writing a story about spoons. Alright, it was a long time before the next cycle. Mom, okay, he didn't call her mom. The woman unloaded the dishwasher this time. She left everything on the drying pad as she went to answer the phone. Sugar called. Ando, are you okay? Still here, he said, hoping to make it to the drawer. It's been a while. All right. Sterling spoke from a distance. Sterling spoke from a distance. Here comes the boy. Prepare to be piled up. I'll just be happy to be home, Ando whispered. He hoped for the bottom of the pile to avoid the bottom of the sink for a while. The boy moved the dishes first. Then he started on the silver. It sounded like he was stacking it. Maybe the man had a talk with him. Then the man came. He looked around the drying pad and picked up a fork. "Good luck," Ando whispered. The man paused, and his eyes lighted on Ando. Putting down the fork, oh, thank you for the gifted sub, Otterly. That's really cool of you. I appreciate you being here. Alright, putting down the fork. Alright, putting down the fork, the man took up the hated spoon. This couldn't be good. When the man left the kitchen, Ando assumed this meant the trash. But in the living room, the man used Ando to loosen some rusty screws on an old, what would he have? Screws on an old, let's just say table. I may replace it with something else later. Some rusty screws on an old table. Ando couldn't describe the taste. He feared the misuse was making his tail sharper and would add to the hate. After a while, the man threw Ando back on the counter. The boy walked by and picked up the hated spoon, turning to the drawer. Not there. I used him as a screwdriver. You wouldn't say him. What am I doing here? I used it as a screwdriver. The boy placed Ando back into the dishwasher. Over the next few weeks, Ando found himself used to pop lids, scrape bad leftovers into the trash, scraping the stove, scraping pans, fishing burnt toast out of the depths of the toaster. Then always back to the sink, the dishwasher, and then around to some other non-eating chore. The boy got yelled at again for for letting the dishes pile up. At least Ando had landed in a pan, so he was above the standing water. The boy picked up the pan. The boy picked up the pan and dropped Ando straight down into the clogged mouth of the drain. Here we go again. Ando thought. He didn't dare speak in this swill. Alright, let me italicize the spoon's thoughts. Save where we are so far in case there's a power failure. Thanks for hanging out, Angela. I appreciate it. Alright, here we go again. Ando thought. He didn't dare speak in this swill. Okay. The dishes disappeared one by one. Dishes disappeared one by one. Soon, Ando was alone in the filth and stayed that way. Voices sounded low and muffled above him beyond the surface. Okay. What was taking so long? Then he heard a rumble. Water vibrated and swirled all around him. The chunks of spoiled food stirred and rubbed around him in a circle. Then the most intense pain of his life shot through his metal body. A grinding noise filled the world as the water sucked away in a dirty, gurgling it was the garbage disposal. Ando was trapped in it. He screamed in one continuous note that the people could not hear. The man turned off the switch and the pain wound down. Ando had never been so happy to see the person who hated him the most. I didn't know, the boy said. I couldn't see. I couldn't see. Right. If you didn't let it all pile up. Okay. The boy lifted Ando out of that drain of torture. Alright, lifted Ando out of that drain of torture. If you didn't let it all pile up, then it wouldn't turn into... Alright, now I gotta hit 3 buttons for an M dash, which I've never understood. Keyboards are used for writing and writers need M dashes, but we have to press 3 buttons like it's a hidden trick here. Alright. If you didn't let it pile up, so on and so forth, the boy screamed and dropped Ando. The hated spoon, still smarting from the disposal, hit the edge of the counter and tumbled along the floor to a baseboard under the counter. Dust stuck to him. Something was wrong. He felt wrong. Broken, even though he was all there, it seemed. What happened, son? Guess that'd be capitalized. I cut myself. Not bad. On what? the spoon. The hated spoon. Hando thought. He tried to turn, but that's when he noticed his shape was wrong. Alright, let me italicize the spoon's thoughts. The man showed his teeth and hunted the spoon down where it lay in the shadows. Alright. The man showed his teeth and hunted the spoon down where it lay in the shadows. He lifted Hando into the light, and the spoon saw that he was twisted in 3 different directions. No one would ever eat ice cream with him again. The man cursed as he crossed the kitchen, then said, "Go wash it with soap in the bathroom. Even if it stings, use soap." Looking down at his twisted tail, Hando saw he had a keen edge, probably as sharp as a steak knife. None of this was his fault. Okay, what did I hit? None of this was his fault, but that didn't matter. As the man held Hando above the trash can, the spoon said, "Sugar was better with the ice cream anyway. All of them were better." He fell in among the wadded papers, scraped food, peels, empty cans, and other wastes. The lid closed, and he found himself twisted up among the other trash. Ando thought for hours, wondering what life would be. Where did the trash go? What happened to it? What if he got recycled? He wished he had a chance to say goodbye to sugar. Ando sighed and tried to move into a more comfortable position. As he turned, he spun up through the trash like a corkscrew. Ando launched and hit the lid hard enough to pop it open before he fell back to the top of the pile. Am I able to move now? He tried again, and this time launched himself up onto the edge of the open can. Let's see. He could fall out onto the floor. Hold on. It was dark in the house. Okay. He could fall out onto the floor or dump himself back into the trash where the man had finally put him. Ando considered his options. If he tried to get back in the silverware drawer, he'd just make the others dirty. If he tried to put himself into the dishwasher, he'd get thrown back away now that he was twisted and useless. Probably he would get the boy trouble because the man would think that was the only way a spoon could escape the trash. Okay. Could he flatten himself? Alright. Let me make this 2 paragraphs here. Alright, could he flatten himself? Ando had no idea, but the man would still know something was wrong the moment he saw his least favorite spoon. The man was the key. Ando needed to make friends with the man. That was his only chance. And this was his only shot. The spoon spun himself onto the floor with a clatter. A clock ticked somewhere in the house. Ando heard snoring, but didn't know what it was. No one came to investigate the noise. Ando spun himself and found he could move and steer himself along the floor quite easily. He spun past the bathroom. Oh, thank you, Zach. Alright. I spun past the bathroom. He spun past the bathroom. This is not first person. Get it together, Jay. He spun past the bathroom, over the rug in front of the laundry room, and turned the corner by the boys' room. Ando knew the layout of the house better than any other spoon. The man had used him to pry out stubborn nails. It's like being in the office again. That's funny. The man used him to pry out stubborn nails and to occasionally separate Legos for the boy. Guess that needs to be capitalized. Don't think I can get Legos to sponsor this story, but we'll see. Alright, to occasionally separate the Legos for the boy. As Ando approached the door where the man and woman slept, he grew more angry. I agree, I'm editing, wondering why the guy in the next cubicle is making so much noise. So comforting. No, I just need a water cooler to gossip around. Alright. As Ando approached the door where the man and woman slept, he grew more angry. The man used the spoon for all sorts of chores. Why would he still hate Ando when the spoon did his best to be useful? He just wanted to be a spoon. Ando reached the base of the door and considered launching himself toward the knob. He ended up curling under the edge instead. It was the man making that odd snoring sound. To Ando, it reminded him of the garbage disposal, and he felt even more angry. The spoon reached the corner of the comforter on the carpet. Let's say rested. No, let's say bunched on the carpet. The angry spoon climbed the patterned material. His sharp edges sliced through, but that just gave him more traction. It was the man's fault. He was too sharp. Everything was the man's fault. Ando twisted his way under the covers by the man's feet. The smell of the bare feet reminded him of the stink and the taste. Okay, I got two of these there. Reminded him of the stink and the taste of the clogged drain. The spoon sliced through the sheet and nicked the sole of the man's foot as he passed. The man grunted and stopped making that horrible disposal growling noise. Ando tasted something new. It was savory and salty. Rare, meaty flavor. It had been so long since he had been used for food that the spoon forgot about good flavors. He looked and saw the dribble of blood from the nick in the man's foot. How could something so delicious come from something that stank as bad as the hated man's foot? Endo had only the vaguest notion of blood from let's do it this way. Ando had no real notion of blood. Meat was usually a fork and knife job. All right. Yeah, the story's getting a little weird, I think. Meat was usually a fork and knife job. Okay. Ando moved carefully and took another drop of blood. Ando moved carefully and took another drop of blood. It was the most incredible thing he ever remembered tasting. Ando moved carefully and took another drop of blood. It was the most incredible thing he ever remembered tasting. He tried for another. But accidentally cut foot deeper. The man cried out this time. His voice was still sluggish from sleep. The gush of blood that splashed Ando made the spoon mad with lust. For more. Without much thought for the man, Ando tore after the trail of blood, ripping through the fitted sheet and the mattress as he went. Ando hardly noticed the screams as he sliced his way up the man's leg, taking hair and skin as he went. The light came on. Let me make that a new paragraph. We're kind of in an action scene here, even if the action scene is a spoon. All right, the light came on dim through the stained sheet. The woman started screaming too. Ando sliced through the man's boxers. I say saggy boxers. This is the kind of guy that has saggy boxers. Ando sliced through the man's saggy boxers and found more tasty bits. The man tumbled to the floor and started crawling away. Tasty bits. Yeah, it took a turn here, I think. The man tumbled to the floor and started crawling away as he begged for the pain to stop. That made Ando angry for the hated. That made Ando angry. Let me do a new sentence so it doesn't get confusing here. That made Ando angry. The hated man never concerned himself with Ando's pain or loss. The spoon decided the man was worth nothing except his flavor. The spoon dove in for more and dug deep for all the flavors. Say all the fresh flavors. All the fresh flavors. All the fresh flavor he could savor. Ando was wild and insane with it all. He barely remembered any of it as the screams turned to weeping and silence. No one noticed as the forgotten spoon moved across the floor away from the scene by itself. Alright, we're in the home stretch here, about to finish this up. The red and blue flashing lights confused him. He eventually found his way to the kitchen and launched himself onto the counter as more people moved in and out of the house. Ando ignored it all as he tried to figure out how to open the silverware drawer. The spoon had been used for many tasks, so he was quite resourceful now that he was mobile. He got the drawer open with 3 bursts of effort. In the process, he flattened himself out a little. Okay, let me keep that same paragraph. Maybe they wouldn't notice he had been twisted. Ando dropped into the drawer with the piled and scattered silverware. The boy must have unloaded and sorted again. He had not learned the lesson from the man. Thinking of the man made Ando feel hungry. I could probably use a dash here, but I'm not going to right now. An odd sensation for a spoon. Let's say I feel hungry and excited. Because now this spoon has a taste for blood, obviously. An odd sensation for a spoon. The screaming started again, but this time it was the other spoons. Everyone moved away from him except Sugar. Even Cromwell was crying, and usually he was the voice of reason. What happened to you? Sugar asked. A drop of blood and gore had landed on her handle. Ando moved toward her to taste it, but she backed away and he stopped. What's wrong, Sugar? I'm back. What happened to you? She asked again. Ended up in the garbage disposal, and then the garbage. Sterling cried from the other side of the drawer. Are we covered in garbage? Gross. Okay, home stretch here. Are we covered in garbage? Gross. I hope it's just garbage. Sunday said quietly. Her voice shook. What did you do? Sugar asked. Ando said, I just got a little twisted, but I worked things out with the man. Okay. Someone in a uniform opened the silverware drawer rest of the way. He stared for several seconds. Ando laughed and said, "Sugar is the best. Sugar is the best spoon for ice cream." Sugar started crying. The new man, staring down at the mess in the drawer, called out, "Hey, I think you need to have a look at this." All right. Turned out pretty well. That's 3,100 words. And again, that could have gone like a fairy tale direction, or it could have gone horror. And I decided to go with horror. So we have a spoon that was greatly disliked, greatly misunderstood, suffered a good bit, and then when he went to try to fix things, things turned dark pretty quick. So be nice to those spoons you don't like, and be sure you never give them a taste of blood.